distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a special pleasure to be here at this graduation ceremony of the Executive Course 39 of 2017 of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. And I bring you the very warm felicitations of President Muhammad Buhari, President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I congratulate the participants of the Senior Course 39 for your excellent performance and your elevation to the privilege of member of the National Institute, NIPSS. Your presentation to Mr. President last week Friday, 17th November, on the theme Science, Technology and Innovation for the Development of Agriculture and Agro-allied Industries in Nigeria was both scholarly and practical. And it will be an important reference in refining and implementing policy in this very important area. I also congratulate family of vets and especially spouses of participants today on this very joyful occasion. NIPSS occupies an important place in our national policy discourse, especially through its policy-relevant training and research outputs. Notably, the NIPSS alumni provide a patriotic repository of knowledge that is very often deployed in support of national development objectives. Today's event is significant. It is at once a celebration of success and in many ways also symbolic of the opportunities that will arise from completion of a year of rigorous learning and reflection for you and for the federal government. And it also provides me an opportunity to share some thoughts on the trajectory of our national economic development with Nigeria's policy elite, to which distinguished group you now likely belong. I'm going to focus on the economy, where we are and where we're heading in the next 12 months. What are the policy choices we have made, why we have made those choices, and are those policy choices working? And if they're not, what do we intend to do? From the very beginning of our administration, when Mr. President asked me to head the economic management team, he made it clear that in his view, the major reason for the slow development of our nation and for the poverty of millions of our people was corruption and mismanagement of public funds and resources. And that fighting corruption and mismanagement of public resources was as much an economic imperative as it was a law and order issue. I agreed. And we, from that point, put in place structures that would ensure prudent and transparent management of resources. In July 2015, the President ordered that all MDA funds should be paid into the Treasury single account. This ended years of MDAs keeping secret bank accounts and in some cases putting public funds in fixed deposit for interest far below market rates. Banks would then, of course, lend money back to the government by buying Treasury bills at substantially higher interest. Today, government knows exactly how much we have, and we are saving significantly. Early in 2016, an efficiency unit was set up under the Ministry of Finance to reduce wastage, plug leakages, and foster greater fiscal transparency. The efficiency unit has forced several deliberate cost-cutting measures, including the removal or reduction of sitting allowances for civil servants in many cases, and saved over a billion a year, stopping the procurement of souvenirs and printing for government programs, we saved another billion annually. By reviewing travel expenditures and negotiating procurement discounts, we saved 15 billion. We have also removed or reduced meals and refreshment for meetings and saved another 1 billion annually. We stopped the siphoning of funds through ghost workers by insisting that all MDAs must be on the integrated payroll and personal information system across government, and also mandated the use of BVN. Over 461 federal MDAs have been captured on the system thus far, with the objective of being able to enroll all of them. They are now saving 25 billion a month from the cleaning up of the payroll in this country. The President has also ordered all armed forces personnel to be captured on IP. But what all these measures to block leakage and stealing of public resources mean, especially what it means for economic performance. And I will demonstrate that impact. When we came into office, over 22 states were owing salaries. And they were owing salaries despite the fact that between 2011 and 2015, Nigeria earned its highest ever revenues from oil. Oil was selling at between $100 and $115 a barrel. Yet reserves between 2014 and 2015 fell from about 35 billion US dollars to 28 billion US dollars in April of 2015. When we came into office, oil prices fell at one point as low as $28 a barrel. The unrest in the Niger Delta, especially the vandalization of pipelines and oil and gas assets, resulted in a reduced production at some point of over 1 million barrels a day. Revenues dropped by as much as 60%. But with 60% less revenue, we started a series of bailouts for the states to enable them to pay salaries and pensions. With 60% less revenue, we were able to provide 1.3 trillion naira for capital expenditure, the largest amount ever set aside for capital in our nation's history. For the first time in 5 years, we saved 500 million US dollars and invested another 500 million US dollars in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Today, our external reserves stand at 35 billion, the highest in the past 4 years. We've made the point that Nigeria is not poor because it has no resources. It is poor because a lot of its resources are stolen or mismanaged. We can do a lot more with far less if we don't allow stealing. Now let us for a moment reflect on where the Nigerian economy is today. The economic focus and direction of the Buhari administration is set out in our Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, the ERGP. The plan is based on a set of principles, broad principles, and certain key actions, including eliminating corruption in government procurement and processes, prudent management of resources, social inclusion, overcoming constraints such as power, petrol, and skills shortages, the promotion of the private sector, and the use of market mechanisms where possible. We work hard to keep faith with these crucial principles. In particular, we are committed to ensuring that Nigeria does not return to the years of corruption and waste, where people at the highest levels of government simply converted to private use funds and public resources meant for infrastructure and provision of services. We must pay some attention. We must pay some attention to what we're seeing today. And some of the shameless noises of those who brought our nation to grief, many of whom still have looted funds in their possession, trying to rewrite history and hoodwink the populace again. We say never again. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today regarding our economy, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. The darkness is certainly giving way to light. Let's begin with the macroeconomic story. The decline in growth, which started in 2015, has been reversed with the third quarter figures released earlier this year, showing that the economy has fully exited recession with growth of 1.4%. A further analysis of quarter 2 2017 GDP results indicate that the recovery was driven largely by performance in agriculture, industry, solid minerals, and crude oil and gas production. Agriculture, which is the main focus of this administration's economic policy, as stated in the ERG, grew strongly throughout 2016, despite the contraction in the overall economy. But it continued to grow in 2017, recording 3.06% growth in quarter 3 of 2017. And in quarter 2 of 2017, we even grew a bit stronger. But industry has contracted for 9 consecutive quarters. It recorded its first positive growth of 1.45% in quarter 2 of 2017, and it has grown stronger in quarter 3 by growing 8.83%, compared to a contraction of minus 12.66% a year earlier. This represents the strongest growth in industry since quarter 2 of 2014, when industry grew at a similar rate of 8.97%. The oil sector also grew strongly, partly due to the actions of government, which led to stable oil production and an improved situation in the Niger Delta. By oil productions, by the development and growth of our oil production, we have been able to practically stabilize earnings from oil, although of course oil earnings are still substantially lower than in previous years. Oil production grew very strongly as a factor of GDP by about 25.89% in Q3 2017, compared to 3.53 in Q2 2017, and a contraction of minus 23.4 in Q3 2016. Inflation continues to fall from a peak of 18.72% in January to 15.91% today. Similarly, as noted earlier, our reserves are much higher at 35 billion, while the exchange rate regime has been stabilized. We are confident that the Naira will continue to appreciate. One of our biggest priorities as a government was making the lives of the poorest and most vulnerable amongst us better. From the presidential campaigns that preceded our coming to serve, we made it clear that we will be a government for the poor and the vulnerable. We designed an ambitious social investment program to accomplish this, comprising 4 initiatives: a job scheme for unemployed graduates, a microcredit scheme targeting SMEs, a homegrown school feeding program providing 1 meal a day to primary school pupils, and a conditional cash transfer scheme for the poorest Nigerians across the country. The social investment program kicked off a year ago with the recruitment of 200,000 young Nigerian graduates for the first phase of the Empower program. These young people are deployed across the 774 local government areas of the country as teaching assistants in public primary schools, public health assistants in primary health centers, and as agricultural extension service assistants in various agricultural programs. Today, a year later, we've just pre-selected an additional 300,000 young people, young unemployed graduates, and they will be further engaged in the Empower program. The homegrown school feeding program now provides free, nutritious meals, 1 a day, to over 5 million children across 19 states. And our target is 5.5 million children before the end of 2017. In addition to providing nutrition for children in the first 3 years of primary education, the school feeding program buys food from local farmers and employs almost 55,000 cooks in 28,249 schools. Other participants in the food value chain, such as processors and transporters, also benefit directly from this program. While we were laying the groundwork for the rollout of the social investment programs, we began to aggressively invest in plugging Nigeria's huge infrastructure gap. One of the reasons why we are where we are today is that over the last 3 decades, we failed to invest substantially in infrastructure to any appreciable degree. Even as our population grew, much of the funds which should have invested in infrastructure simply cannot be expected. We wasted no time in addressing this, and at a time when resources have dropped dramatically and with little by way of savings, we invested in roads, railways, and power projects. Work resumed on several projects that had been abandoned or suspended before we took off. We completed and commissioned the rail line connecting Kaduna to Abuja, the first standard gauge line in Nigeria. The Abuja Light Rail project, which was only half completed when we inherited it, is now almost ready to go into operation. When completed, it will be the first functioning urban light rail in Nigeria. Our successful engagement with the Chinese government has yielded fruit. Construction has started on the Lagos-Ibadan segment of the new standard gauge railway line between Lagos and Kano. and will soon commence the coastal railway from Lagos to Calabar, which will open up the southeast and Niger Delta in unprecedented ways. We are now providing in the 2018 budget for the commencement of work on the Mambila hydroelectric project. However, even if we had invested our entire annual budget on infrastructure, it would certainly not have been enough to fill the gap. So, as a government, it was clear to us that the greatest impact would come from efforts of private capital, while we act as an enabler and as a catalyst, creating an environment conducive for investors and businesses. This is why we have revised and prioritized the Road Trust Fund to enable private firms partner with the federal government to build, repair, and maintain roads in return for tax credits. Meanwhile, work continues on the overdue second Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and other major arterial roads like the Ilorin, Jeba, Mokwa, Benin, Gwari, Kaduna Road, and the Enugu-Port Harcourt Road, to mention a few. The power sector has also been one of historic concern. The dismal situation of the power sector was due to factors including inadequate generation, limitations in transmission capacity, and financing constraints. Of course, the problems associated with the privatization exercise itself has manifested serious constraints in the ability of the DISCOs to reinvest in the assets, in electrical assets. Despite major investment of time and effort and resources, we are also completing some strategic transmission and distribution projects that we believe may be game changers in the power supply story. But easily the clearest demonstration of our belief that the private sector, including MSMEs, must be enabled as they are the engines of economic growth, will be seen in the ease of doing business reforms which were embarked upon in 2016. Our goal, as set by Mr. President, was to move Nigeria by 20 spaces upwards in the World Bank's ease of doing business ranking. After a year of intensive reforms, including a national action plan, an executive order, 2 acts of parliament, and other initiatives, we surpassed our 20-place target. The improvements we brought to Nigeria's business climate include the simplifying of business registration processes, implementing a visa on arrival procedure, enabling better access to credit by the creation of the National Collateral Registry and the Credit Risk Bureau, both set up by law. And this earned us a 24-place improvement, as well as a designation as one of the 10 most improved economies in the world. The lesson from this is that consistent and dedicated effort will produce results. This is the underlying theme of all the work we have put into the economy in the last 2.5 years. In agriculture, we were enthused by the remarkable progress we made so far. Throughout the recession, agriculture remained a solid growth area due to policy interventions by the government. The Anchor Borrowers Program has provided financing to tens of thousands of smallholder farmers, enabling them to maximize harvest, as well as connecting them to off-takers and markets. Up to 53 billion has been disbursed in support of almost 250,000 smallholder farms across 31 states, with coverage of 286,000 hectares. Although it's still early days, there are appreciable results in 9 commodities, namely rice, wheat, maize, cotton, fish, soybeans, cassava, groundnut, and poultry. The focal point, however, remains rice because of our aim to ensure food security and to reduce the huge amount of foreign exchange that we spend importing food, especially rice. Rice imports have now dropped by 70%, and we're producing over 7 million metric tons of paddy today. The question, of course, is milling. We're not measuring up in terms of milling capacity. So despite the size of our paddy, we're still recording very low figures in terms of actual production of bagged rice. The Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, which President Buhari launched in December 2016, has directly led to the resuscitation of 15 moribund fertilizer blending plants and to the production this year of more than 7 million bags of NPK fertilizer, which is now available to our farmers at prices well below what they paid before the PFI. Taking the lead from government's commitment to agriculture, the private sector has also undertaken major investment in agriculture and agro-processing. Up to 300,000 metric tons per annum of rice milling capacity has been added in the past 12 months, including the Walcott factory in Kebbi State and the Umza rice mill in Kano. Upcoming ones include the investments by Labana and Dangote groups, among others. Dangote alone is investing in milling capacity 1 million metric tons. The President recently commissioned Olam's 20 billion integrated feed mill and hatchery in Kaduna. In the solid mineral sector, we succeeded in tapping into the Natural Resources Development Fund to create a dedicated fund for supporting investments in solid minerals in Nigeria. This is the first time that this is happening. Moreover, work is going on to fully exploit bitumen resources in Indo to meet national asphalt requirements for roads and other construction projects. To consolidate this effort, we have also established a 30 billion naira solid mineral development fund to support other mineral exploration across the country. I've spoken about what we set out to do and what has been done so far. And I'll just speak very quickly about some of the forthcoming actions in the year ahead. To start with, the federal government sees 2018 as a year of consolidation of the economic recovery and the gains from improved macroeconomic management and extensive investments made in agriculture, in infrastructure, and the business environment. We're diversifying our options in power supply. Our program of energizing industrial clusters has started. That project involves providing power in existing small business clusters. For our first batch, we'll be providing independent power in certain markets. For example, we'll be providing power in the Araria market in Abia State. We'll be providing power in Shomolu, the printing community in Shomolu. We'll be providing power in the Muhammadu Abubakar Rimi, the Sabongari market in Kano State. Also, and all of this power is independent power which will guarantee 24-hour supply to these industrial clusters. As a first phase, we intend to take batch by batch some of these industrial clusters. Our primary aim, of course, is to encourage the growth of industry, to encourage the growth of small businesses, and encourage more jobs. Also, we provided in both the 2017 and 2018 budget funds for what we have described as the Energizing Education Project. This involves providing independent power in the following universities in the first batch: the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in Bauchi, Bayero University in Kano, the Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto, the Federal University of Agriculture in Makurdi, the Federal University in Ndufu Alike, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe University in Anambra, the University of Lagos, the Obafemi Awolowo University and Teaching Hospital, the Federal University of Petroleum in Delta State. All of these universities and institutions are to benefit from independent power in the first batch of those universities will be able to take that benefit. Our emphasis going forward will be on job creation through scaling up social intervention programs to include artisans, but also through a massive construction effort with regards to homes and revitalization of the manufacturing sector. Jobs are central to our purpose for revitalizing the manufacturing sector. As a matter of fact, there is no point talking about growth of any kind or citing figures of any kind if it doesn't translate to jobs. So our focus is on looking at the areas where we can ramp up jobs, whether they are directly created by government, but more where they are created by small and medium-scale enterprises. The focused attention we have given to promote agriculture will be replicated in the manufacturing sector. We recognize, of course, that electricity is critical for this sector, and this is being continually addressed. We already have policies for automobile and tomato processing sectors, and we'll continue to fine-tune other sectoral policies. In addition, we are focused on ensuring the takeoff of the special economic zones in 6 geopolitical zones, dedicated to textiles and footwear for exports, and on ensuring adequate and affordable financing to enhance the operations of manufacturing concerns. We have already provided 80 billion in the 2018 budget for these export processing zones. Jobs are also the reason why we'll be fast-tracking the implementation of the Family Homes Fund. The program, this is an important program of providing housing in the coming year. Our intention is to use this program to create a large number of jobs in construction, as well as to promote widespread home ownership by providing affordable housing to be paid through a sustainable mortgage financing system. The coming year will see even greater movement to fully utilize the oil and gas value chain. Private investments in refineries, petrochemical plants, and fertilizer factories will be complemented by more gas projects, especially critical pipeline infrastructure, and greater penetration of LPG in the domestic market. The startup of modular refineries in the Niger Delta is part and parcel of this work program. Up to 35 communities and the investor group have reached the right to invest stage, and 3 of them are already preparing to ship their facilities for installation. Our emphasis on supporting micro, small, and medium enterprises is largely because the sector is critical for job creation. We'll continue with the MSME clinics, which are being followed up with the creation of one-stop shops for federal regulatory agencies across all the states of the Federation. What we're trying to achieve is a situation where NAFDAC, SON, BOI, the Corporate Affairs Commission have one-stop shops in many of our states, so that MSMEs can go directly to them without having to travel to the various headquarters of these organizations. We opened the 4th of those one-stop shops in Kwara State earlier on this week. We will by this means reduce some of the costs and regulatory obstacles that MSMEs face in trying to do their business. The MSME program now goes hand in hand with the government enterprise and empowerment program, which provides microcredit loans to cooperative societies and artisans. Our recent experience has shown that government revenues are quite low for the size of our economy and inadequate to meet the related social demands. Our total tax collection is just 6% of gross domestic product, as compared to an African average of 17%. We are currently taking all necessary steps to increase government revenues through the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme, VADE. We're also going to be considering excise taxes and improved collection of taxes generally. Government will also ensure better management of its resources through cost efficiencies, and we've talked already about the automated payroll systems and leveraging its assets to ensure better returns. The decision to reduce federal government joint venture operation, to reduce government holdings in the federal government joint venture operations, is a case in point. By this means, we'll not only be raising revenues to help fund federal and state budgets, we'll also, in addition, be improving governance in the oil and gas sector. In a similar context, as the case of JAM has shown, there is substantial under-remittance to the federal government by its parastatals and agencies, and we'll be putting a stop to this by using the results of a forensic audit being undertaken, as well as greater scrutiny and oversight by the economic management team. The infrastructure that I've mentioned will of course continue to be the focus of attention until they are completed across power, roads, rail, airports, and broadband infrastructure. The 25 road projects in all 6 geopolitical zones to be financed by the recently issued 100 billion Sukuk bonds will be closely monitored to ensure that they are delivered in good quality by the specified date. Our efforts to improve business conditions will continue apace. We must bear in mind that the purpose of our efforts on the ease of doing business is to promote the private sector and provide the right atmosphere for firms to operate profitably in order to grow the economy and provide jobs for the unemployed and those joining the labor market. Thus, while we continue to bask in the improvements in our ranking and the citation of Nigeria as one of the 10 best performing economies in the world, we realize that our task is far from being done, and we remain focused on the ERGP, that the objective of being in the top 100 countries in the ease of doing business by 2020. But most importantly for us, it is that until the average Nigerian is able to have food on his table and has a job and is satisfied with the life that he's living, we are far from declaring any kind of celebration. One of the principles underpinning our economic planning and all of our economic efforts, but is often overlooked, is the commitment to upholding core values. Our desire for change must translate into strengthening ethics, especially patriotism, integrity, and ethnic and religious tolerance. We must strive to build a fair, just, and equitable society that prefers investment to consumption, thrift over waste, and which celebrates integrity over corruption. These values are not only morally right, but they are also essential underpinning for restoring growth, for investing in our people, and for building a globally competitive economy. May I conclude by extending my very warm congratulations to the participants graduating from NIPSS today. I have no doubt that you'll be returning to your respective duty stations full of insight and understanding of our national policy space. And I urge you to deploy the knowledge gained in support of the national development effort in whatever positions you find yourselves. The proof that you have a role to play is evidenced by the very vibrant, committed, and forward-looking alumni association that you have joined. In similar vein, we must commend the Acting Director General and faculty of NIPSS, to whom has been given the critical task of developing the Nigerian policy infrastructure, and for their commitment to maintaining the dynamic spirit of Kuru. The federal government is aware of some of the challenges that the Institute continues to face, and we are committed to resolving them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. God bless you.